Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to Coffee Break. I miss doing Coffee Break with you. This is Dr. Michele. It's another day to really sit down and just hold hands and go through life the way we would like it, the way we would be better, the way we would learn more about our faith, our well being, and family life. So that's what Coffee Break is about. So I hope you join me for this episode. Um, we're going to talk about too many feels, and I think it's very appropriate for the season, sa lahat ng maraming mga pinagdadaanan, sa lahat ng maraming nangyayari sa buhay, sa lahat ng nalulunod. Meron ba ditong ganyan, friends? That's why really, for the past days, last week I did not go on Coffee Live. I did not go live in Coffee Break. I'm sorry. I missed you guys. For those of you who are always tuning in. I had several sessions with different groups, with different ministries, just helping them process their emotions and go through, just gain insights and understanding about the crucial situation, the national situation that we have. So that's my way of helping them. And I know that I'm supporting you as well as I support them. So this afternoon, let us talk about too many feels, how to manage your emotion. So sa lahat ng mga kaibigan natin na nandito, kumusta ba kayo? Ayan, pag-usapan muna natin, kumustahin muna natin sarili natin. Kumusta ka? Ano ang prominent emotion na nararamdaman mo nitong mga nakaraang araw? And I think it's very important for us to really check in. I need to use that word. You have to check in with yourselves and see ano yung nararamdaman ko, bakit ko ito nararamdaman, saan nga kaya ito galing? Bakit kailangan natin ma-access? I have to use that word, ma-access yung emotion. Because emotions are real. There's no faking what you're actually, if you're trying to fake your emotions, it's no longer emotions. It's just your mental, it's a mental process already. Maraming nararamdaman ang mga tono ng marami sa atin with on the past days is actually fear, anxiety, frustration, anger, disbelief, shame, ano pa ba? Rage. Yan, mga nakikita ko yan. Confusion. So, kung ano man yung nararamdaman mo, if kaya mong ilagay dyan sa comment section, you can actually put there what exactly you are feeling. I will not judge you. Nobody should judge you. Even you, you're not supposed to judge your emotional process because emotions are actually part of our lives. No, I teach in the graduate school, and there's a in the subject that I teach. Emotions is one the development of our emotions since we were born until now that it's manifesting on our emotional maturity, it's very critical in our lives. Kaya kailangan nating matutunan paano nga ba to ina-handle. Emotions are just not always happy lang. I think our culture has is not very helpful when it comes to emotion. Are you agree? I know that many of you would agree that we've been trained not to really feel, not to really say what you feel. Parang kung galit ka, itago mo na lang, wag mo na lang ikwento, wag mo na lang sabihin. Trained din tayo na anong nararamdaman mo, hindi natin sinasabi, yung totoo natin nararamdaman. If we're upset, wag mo na lang sabihin, baka makasakit ka. But in reality, our emotions are actually uniquely ours. It's a very unique process. So some people would be feeling this and some people would be feeling this despite that you have the same experience. Posible siya. It's uniquely ours. Nobody can dictate to us what are we supposed to feel. So when people tells us na huwag ka na magalit, mag-move on ka na lang. Huwag ka nang umiyak, huwag ka nang malungkot, okay lang yan. Well, it is actually not helpful. Okay, tanong ko sa inyo friends, for those of you who are watching, ano yung pinakaayaw nyong narinig? Meron kayong pinagdadaanan, ang dami nyong hugot, ang dami nyong emosyon, it's all over the place. Ano yung worst comment that was ever given to you, especially without being asked? Unsolicited advice? Ano yung pinakabagay na sinabi nyo na parang, ayoko nito ha, ayoko nito. Ayoko nitong sinabing to. Meron ba? Ang drama mo, ayan, hi friend, ayan, tinan mo, pareho, dami mong drama. O kaya, ano ba, mag-move on ka na lang. Move on ka na. Wala ka nang magagawa dyan, mag-move on ka na. 'Di ba? Ayan yung, o kaya yung parang, huwag ka na magalit. Para yun lang eh. So, it's actually belittling the emotion. Anong stage ka na ba? Sabay post ng stages of grieving. Yan. Pero actually, pwede naman hindi naman that stage of grieving, it's not as what you call this hierarchical. Hindi yan hagdan. Hindi yan hagdan. The stage of grieving, it's actually a cyclical and a very complex process. You can actually feel so many emotions at the same time. So ayan, andun ka pa rin ba? Ang drama mong drama, anong stage ka na ba? Andun ka pa rin? Hindi ka pa rin nakakaalis dyan? Guidance counselor ka pa naman. Kaya mo yan. I hate that. Parang ikaw, made-depress? Ako, pinagtinanong na ako, ikaw? Ikaw yan na? Parang, bakit? Yang sinabihan ka ng, okay lang yan. It's the other saying, shut up, your feelings don't matter. Tama. Kaya mo yan. Ako nga, mas malala pa dyan eh. Yung mga tao na well-meaning, na gusto nilang makatulong, but in reality, iba-iba naman tayo talaga ng experience. We experience things differently. Friends, no matter what culture dictate to us the emotion, there are just some concepts about emotions that I would like you to understand. Yes, there may be too many feels. There may too many, one of the things that you need to realize is that you have to really learn how to recognize in order to manage your emotion. So, isang process yung awareness or recognizing the emotion. Another process yung managing. We do not just control emotion. 'Di ba? I think madalas yan, i-control mo nga yung emotion mo. I need to be fully in control of my emotions. Honestly, controlling, it's not a healthy way to deal with emotion. It might be more appropriate to say that I I I I handle it or I manage it. Hindi natin puwedeng sabihin sa sarili natin na, "You're grieving, tigilan mo na 'yan. I-grab mo lang 'yan o kaya mag-order ka na lang ng Foodpanda or i-shopping mo lang 'yan." Yes, because it may be a short-term, we may look for short-term ways to deal with our negative emotion, but if we don't fully recognize that it's existing, we don't get to know what is the reason why this emotion is, happening, hindi natin 'to maa-address. Ang emosyon ay indicator of the inner self. Emotions are a way of the self to tell us something it's not right. I feel that it's actually stating that feeling, something that we don't really think about. Yes, emotions are part of our mental process. Why? When we start thinking of things that, nako, baka ito yung mangyari. If we're thinking of the worst case scenario, if we're overthinking about the future, if we're, too much consumed by the the election that happened, if we're too much consumed by the pandemic or the things happening around us, we're being too consumed by that, and our head is starting to churn and churn and churn and to overthink. Punong-puno na yan. Ang nangyayari, any thought that is actually filling our heads or programmed or running in our brains, it's actually pulling an emotion. So thoughts pull emotions. And once the emotion is pulled, that is the unique experience. Kasi two people may have experience the same thing, may have see things in the same perspective, but they have a different emotional processes because they have different contexts, they have different belief system, they have different upbringing, they have different coping style. So posibleng ang isang bagay sa isa, when grief happens, it's easy for them to, okay na yan. They easy for them to recover, but there are people that it's harder for them to recover because maybe the values of that person and maybe the level of investment on why that emotion took place. So I would like you to recognize that you have to learn to recognize your feelings. Feelings are uniquely ours. Can you all say that with me? My feelings are uniquely mine. So there's no such thing as hindi magandang emosyon. Meron kasi talagang unpleasant emotion. There are no good and bad emotions. Some emotions are just unpleasant or to the extreme, but some are pleasant emotions. Our culture conditioned us to just feel good, to just feel best, to just feel happy. 'Di ba? Pag toxic na, ayan, okay lang yan. Manage mo yung feelings mo, kaya mo yan. Hindi na importante yung nararamdaman mo kasi mas importante kung ano nangyayari sa bansa. Ay, nako! Well, importante rin yan kasi paano natin magagawa ang mission natin ng mabuti kung tayo'y kinakain ng sarili nating emosyon. We're being drowned by guilt, we're being drowned by anger, we're being drowned by frustration, and we're being drowned by grief and suffering. So come to think of it, walang ibang makakatulong sa sarili natin in terms of emotional management kung hindi tayo. I challenge you friends, being able to manage and mature in your emotional processes, especially during difficult times, is actually very very good for us to mature as individuals. At makikita nyo, no, ako ito yung realization ko ngayong ngayong pandemic, napakaraming emosyon din na nag-surface na hindi natin kilala. And I think the past weeks, this election, whatever color we stand for, we are, dahil din sa pandemya, all the things that happened in the pandemic, I think this elections has, marami siyang nabuhay na emosyon na hindi tayo familiar. Hindi tayo familiar at nagsabay-sabay siya. Nagsabay-sabay siya ng dating. Kaya napakaraming feels. So, if you would say that it's uniquely mine, my invitation for you is recognize it. Recognize it by learning to sit down and tune into yourself. Hindi ko sinabing umiyak ng maglupasay kayo maghapon or magmukmuk sa isang tabi. But what you have the power of the paper and the pen. You know, all my coffee break sessions, they're written in paper. So patapos na ako sa isang notebook. So I'm sure iba na naman tayo the following week. So I would like you to realize that that we can actually learn more about ourselves if we start, ano bang nararamdaman ko? So, buisit na buisit ako, inis na inis ako, lungkot na lungkot ako, baksak na baksak ako. So, those are things that you can write down. And beside it, you can write down, bakit ba ako, ano bang nakapag-trigger, bakit ako baksak? Ano ba yung ikinalulungkot ko? It's objectively looking at your emotions and learning, kaya pala hindi na ako matulog. Kaya pala parang duktong-duktong na yung emosyon ko, hindi ko na ma-explain kasi ang dami. So, it's getting to know yourself really, like sitting down here in coffee break and listening to me if you're not working. It's actually learning to sit down with yourself also and tuning into your emotions. So, that is actually detaching yourself from the world and detaching, being an objective onlooker or observer of yourself and your process. So maybe you can just, this is what I encourage, you just sit down and then check in, ano bang nararamdaman ko. And these are the guidelines. These are the guidelines. Hindi ko kayo bibigyan ng step, pero bibigyan ko kayo ng guidelines on how we can manage the emotion. Why? But I need to tell you, why is it important for us to recognize our emotions? Because what we feel, we can heal. I like saying this. What we feel, we can heal. When we have access to emotion, pag na-capture natin sila, matututunan natin at maiisip natin kung paano ba ako ano bang tinuturo nitong emosyon na to sa akin? How am I move forward from this? How can I use this emotion for my improvement? So that's one. What we feel, we can heal. Another thing that I like saying regarding emotions is that what we name, we can tame. Meaning, pag napangalanan mo, so kung malalabelan mo yung emotions, that's why it's very important, friends, for you to increase your emotional vocabulary. So if you can label your emotions, it will be very wonderful for you to sit down. Ito pa yung pakiramdam mo ng, so you have to increase your emotional vocabulary. So you look for a feeling vocabulary, marami yan sa Google, wag sa Facebook, wag din sa Instagram or in your social media. Look for them in Google, list of emotions, at baka makapture nyo kung ano yung nararamdaman nyo. Baka it's a state of confusion. You're really belittled. You feel left out, 'di ba? You feel angered. So kasama yan. And because of that, when we know what we name, we can tame. Ito pala yung sinasabi nilang depression. Depression are two things. I just would like to warn you, friends. May mga tao, kasabihin nila na, ay kasi may depression ako. Magkaiba yung feeling of depression doon sa clinical depression. The clinical depression, it's that the depression is so severe, they can no longer function properly and becomes a clinical condition. But that feeling of depression, it can happen to us when we go through crisis events, but we eventually bounce back. So there's such thing as the feeling of depression and the depression as a clinical condition. So, um, what we name, we can tame. So the value of that is that recognizing it, it moves us into action. So these are the guidelines. As I said, what we name, we can tame. And the number one guideline is that we have to be aware and name what we are exactly feeling. So really, there's magic in putting a label. There's power in words. So Lord, itong galit at inis ko, ah, I would like to manage it. I would like to take hold of it. Our tendency, friends, is actually we try to belittle or we try to deny. Minsan, ayaw nating pangalanan kasi tayo mismo, ginudge na natin yung sarili natin na naiinis ako sa sarili ko, bakit ba ako natatakot? Naiinis ako, nakakagala, ano ba yan? Ikaw na nga tong nandito sa lagay na to, hindi ka pa maging grateful. So our tendency, that's why it's hard for us to label an emotion is because we keep putting judgment already. Tayo mismo yung nagko-comment at nagbabash sa sarili natin when we're no longer okay. Kaya it's hard, 'di ba? How would you feel if people would bash you for feeling something? Bakit hindi ka maka-move on? But you know what? Try to check kasi baka sa kinalakihan natin, tayo rin mismo, meron na tayong image na hindi ka dapat malungkot, hindi ka dapat maging masyadong masaya. You're not supposed to show your emotions too much. Baka tayo mismo, we have judgment over them. There's nothing wrong with having having a perception about your emotion, but if you are actually not allowing yourself to name, to surface, and to hold that emotion, kung hindi mo yan ginagawa ng paraan para as I said, what we can name, we can tame. Kung hindi mo yan ginagawa ng paraan, it's going to be hard for you to actually move out of it. Nandyan lang yan. Nandyan lang yan, friends. Emotions are just simply there. So you have to learn to manage the emotion. Do not judge so one thing, be aware and name that feeling. And the thing that I was telling you about, do not judge your emotions. There's no judgments here. Emotions are neither good or bad. I read that before that emotions are amoral. Wala siyang morality. May morality lang is kung ano yung resulta nung ginawa natin sa emosyon. So, sobrang galit mo, you bash somebody in social media. You keep spreading fake news dahil sa inis mo sa isang tao. So, that's the morality there. Hindi maganda yung paglapastangan mo sa ibang tao o pagiging marites at pagkalat ng hindi magandang balita. Pero hindi masama na magalit, hindi masama na mainis, hindi rin naman masama na matakot. Pero kung ano yung response mo, dahil sa takot, ayaw mo nang lumabas. Dahil sa takot, ayaw mo nang gawin yung mga dapat mong gawin. The work that is expected for you in your profession, hindi mo na rin ginagawa. So that is called already, that is the negative or the unhealthy response, unhealthy reactions to emotions. Why? Because we ourselves have judgment about it. So one thing, name and label the emotion. Second, do not have judgment. And third, you have to learn to respond rather than react. You have to know that all emotions are naturally occurring in our system, but it becomes moral only on the outside, at the external. How do we react to the situation, or how do we respond to the situation? Responding to the situation is looking thoughtfully for possible solution, for improvement. But reacting to the emotion, it's actually resisting the reality, resisting the occurrence of whatever is happening. So you have to know Kaya yung iba nagkakaproblema, they cannot manage it because in the first place they do not name it, and then they have judgment over it, and then they become too reactive about it. So there's two words here, react or response. Reaction is you are resisting, you are clashing with the emotion, but responding, you are cooperating with that emotion. And you would like that emotion to drive you to do something good. So ano yung importante kailangan kong explain dito? um, all these emotions are actually teaching us something about ourselves. Sometimes there's an emotion like fear, but in reality, we don't feel secure, we don't feel safe. Yan, merong feeling of insecurity, may feeling of fear also for our safety. So kaya tayo kunyari nagagalit kasi in reality, tinatamaan na yung ating safety needs. So tingnan nyo, what is this? This is a magic question. What is my emotion telling me about myself? Usually, more problems happen if we keep projecting our emotions to other people. But in truth, we are in charge about our emotions. We can only manage it if we know how to label it. And we have checked with ourselves what is this feeling or emotion telling me about. And alam nyo, pag sobrang ingay ng mundo, pag puro na lang tayo nasa social media all the time, it's so hard to do that. It's so hard to check in with ourselves. That's why I really encourage you, if you are in the middle of swimming or being flooded by your emotions, then do the appropriate thing. Help yourself, be compassionate with yourself. Sit down and just rest. Kasi kailangan natin. Kailangan natin to rest. So I would like you to do that. And you have to know that you have to learn to manage the emotion. Do not judge the emotion, or do not judge the emotion as I said. And you have to learn anong tinuturo sa atin. Sa akin itong emosyon na to, wag mo siyang i-judge, bagkus tingnan mo, so paano ako makaka-move out? If it's telling me that I'm not secure, what is it that I can give myself to feel more secure? Okay, I'm not in control of what's happening outside kasi yung election ito, kasi yung mga taong nakapaligid sa akin negative, kasi hindi kami pareho ng paniniwala. So lalo mong tulungan yung sarili mo because you cannot depend on other people on your well-being. That's a sad fact. You cannot depend on, and I would like to tell you, election or not, pandemic or not, there will be occurrences in our lives that we will be tested beyond our limits. So if we are tested beyond our limits, you're being able to feel, to name the emotion, to feel, to cry when you need to feel that fear when it's already happening. Ito pala yung feeling ng takot, yung bang ma-experience mo siya, that can actually allowing that to happen. What I mean by allowing it to happen, yung bang niramdam mo talaga. Naramdaman mo at para mo siyang kulang na lang hinawakan mo at sabihin mo, ito pala yung pakiramdam nun. Yes, kasi sometimes our tendency, ayokong masaktan, ayokong matakot, nagiging anxious na ako, ginagawa natin ng band-aid technique. Yan, kaya nag-add to cart, kaya nag-binge eating, kasi we want to substitute that negative feeling with something that will make us feel good. But in reality, we did not address the negative emotion. It's still there. We're just putting a band-aid or, just trying to tone it down or trying to soothe ourselves. But in reality, the emotion is there. And if we try to soothe it from the outside, hindi natin matututunan kung ano talaga yung tinuturo nito sa loob. Kung hindi natin alam kung ano tinuturo nito sa loob, hindi natin matututunan kung paano natin i-manage. So kung hindi natin alam kung paano natin i-manage, forever paikot-ikot tong cycle na to at nagpapatong-patong ang galit, nagpapatong-patong ang takot, nagpapatong-patong lahat ng pwede nating maramdaman. And what's the result? We go through our mental health issue, we go through our physical health issue. Ang daming issue na pwedeng mangyari simply because we did not listen to our emotions. Believe me or not, our bodies have a way of absorbing our emotions. If we're not accepting it, if we're not accessing it, our bodies are feeling it. Our mental processes are feeling it. Hindi niyo ba napansin? When we're so burdened with so many things happening, di ba nagiging masungit tayo? Lalo na kung ayaw nating aminin kung ano nangyari sa atin. Masungit, makakalimutin, matatakutin, di tayo matulog. Why? Because there's too much feels, too much emotion overload in our system. So the invitation here is that really you have a coffee break with yourself. Take your tea, take your drink, maybe not just the alcoholic para makalimot. No, but you just try to do something that will make you feel. As in, namnamin mo, ramdamin mo yung emosyon. Pag naramdaman mo yan, tanungin mo sa sarili mo, what is this emotion teaching me? What is this emotion telling me about myself? At ang pinaka-importante dito, it will just not stay. Yes, it can stay for a few days, for maybe a few weeks. Uulit na naman. Kala mo okay ka na, tapos hindi pa pala. And try to ask yourself, ano ang tinuturo sa akin ito? Natatakot ako, so how can I do better from this? I can pray more, I can sing more worship songs. So, I am often anxious. So, ano yung mga pwede kong kapitan para tulungan ng sarili ko para hindi maging anxious? So, grabe yung galit ko. Inis na inis na ako sa mga tao. Pwede ko ba silang i-unfollow muna sa social media? Pwede ba akong mag-deactivate or log out muna? By all means, do so because you cannot depend on other people to stop posting or stop feeding you. You have to stop consuming what they post or what they feed you. So feed yourself with good things. So those emotions, do not belittle them. Sit down with your emotions and allow it to teach you something. Allow it to teach you something about yourself. Allow it to teach you good realizations about life. Allow it to teach you that how can you improve from this. So even though that the negative emotion, it's so bad that you just want to let it out, you just want to bawl like a baby, you just want to lash it out. Go and lash it out. Go and cry it out. And then after that, when you're calmer, you can still ask yourself, saan galing yung emotion na yun? Where is this emotion coming from? What is the emotion? Magic questions. What is the emotion? Where is it coming from? Or what is this emotion teaching me about myself? And lastly, how can I help myself move out of that emotion? How can I become a better person because of that emotion? How can I turn my grief into grit? How can I convert my pain into something purposeful? How can I convert my anger into something awesome? How can I convert my frustration into something fun and uh, something fun and will enrich my faith. So you have to check paano ko mag-grow coming from these emotions. This is just a basic thing that I can share with you regarding emotions, but I hope that it's really helpful. Balik-balikan nyo to. So friends, this weekend, my challenge to you, go and just have that quiet time for yourself. Go and see kung nandun pa kayo sa stage na sobrang daming emosyon na nangyayari. Taas ng kamay kung sino dito yon. You can actually help yourself by sitting down with your emotions. Too many feels sa sobrang dami? Huwag ka muna mag-social media pagkatapos ng coffee break or pakinggan mo to, maybe pakinggan mo lang, huwag ka nang manood at huwag ka nang mag-browse. Sit down with your emotion. Label it, feel it, ask what is this teaching me about myself, and learn how that you can grow from your emotion. I hope this coffee break episode has helped you. I hope that you're all listening well. Parang ninanamnam nyo lang kung ano mga sinabi ko. So, ang tanong ko, ano yung emosyon mo ngayon? Ano ang nararamdaman mo ngayon? Ako, I feel fulfilled right now. I feel fulfilled and I am very hopeful of good things to come. Yan yung totoo kong nararamdaman. Kahit napagod ako, I'm really exhausted with too many things, but I feel hopeful. So, to end this, I encourage you, what is it that exactly feeling? So, you are more than 50 here. What is it that you are exactly feeling? Put that in the comment section, friends. Kasi, baka matulungan natin yung sarili natin. So, do that. Do that for yourself. Because you, who knows, this is actually, our emotions can allow us to grow. Our emotions can be a way for us to become better. So, let it teach you to be the best version of yourselves. Let it teach you to take care of yourself. Let it teach you to become the best version of you. Maraming salamat, friends. This is Dr. Michelle Alignay for Coffee Break. I hope that you learned something and then you write down your feelings and you share this to family and friends who might need it. And also, join me again next week for another round of episodes here at Coffee Break. Magandang araw sa inyong lahat. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mommy Fides. I miss you so much.